Hi there, dear friends. This is Bob Hatton. This is the Encourager. So glad once more that you've joined me again today to continue this story about the beginnings of the people of Israel. We are, if we can say that, we are with them in the desert. They're at the foot of the Mount Sinai. Moses has gone up into the mountain. The people were invited also to come into the presence of God, but they were terrified because of the lightning and the thunder and the smoke and the fire, and they were afraid of the presence of God. So Moses went up there himself, and he had a mighty encounter with the living God. And God, he gave them an invitation. He said he wants to be the God, and he wants this people to be his people. And he gave them then some rules, what we call the 10 Commandments. Moses came back down from the mountain. He said, look, this God, he wants to make a contract with us. In the contract, he calls this the covenant. He wants us to enter into a relationship with him whereby he is our God and we are his people. And this is his, these are his conditions. You shall have no other God besides me. You've not got to make any graven image. You've got to honor not to take the name of the Lord in vain and so on. These are what we call the 10 Commandments. And they said, yeah, super. We want to have this covenant. We want to go have this relationship with this God. So they made a deal. And Moses said, okay, I'll go back to the mountain. Wait for me here. I'll be back shortly. And so he went back up into the mountain, and he told God, this people wants to be your people, and they want you to be their God. So great. So now, and God, he tells Moses, I wanted actually these people to come up onto the mountain to my presence, but I realize they can't stand here because they will be consumed if they come anywhere near me. So, you know what? I'm going to come down to them, and I'm going to make wherever they are, that's going to be a hot spot of my presence. And the presence of God is so important for us, that God is there, and that we can live together with him. So God says, this is what you've got to do. I want you to build something. And this thing, what they were to build, it's what we call the tabernacle. It's just like, it's a hut, it's a big tent, like a temple, but a portable temple, a mobile temple. And God says, I'll come there and I'll live there. And he gave such elaborate plans and showed them how to, what it's got to look like, what things have got to be in there, what pictures are going to be on the walls, and all these things, and what furniture has got to be in there. It would be a big courtyard with an altar to sacrifice animals, and then as you went into the holy place, the tent itself, actually only the priests would be allowed to go in there. Well, there was some more furniture there, and there was a curtain. 2/3 of it were open for the priests, but then there was a curtain. Beyond the curtain, that's where God says, that's where I'll live. I'll make my flat there. I'll have an apartment there. And what I want you to build is what was then called the Ark of the Covenant, which was simply a box made out of acacia wood. It was covered with gold, and it had a lid on top of it, and on top of the lid were 2 angels or 2 cherubims. And God says, that's where I'm going to be. That's where I will live. And he told them what he was expecting them in this tabernacle, and that would be the very presence of God here on earth. That would be a few square meters where we could find the very presence of God. So great. These are good. This is going to be their God, and they're going to be his people. So good. That's good news. Moses said, I'll go back down. I'll tell the people, and we'll get to work as soon as possible. So Moses went back down to see the people, and as he was on his way and they got closer, it seems that Joshua was somewhere close to him, and as the both of them went down, they heard this sound, and they wondered what it was. And they saw that the people of Israel, they were celebrating, or rather more or less having an orgy. And in the middle of these people, there was an idol, there was an image of a golden calf. And what had happened was the people were waiting in Moses. He said, I'll come back. He disappeared. He went up the mountain, and he was gone for weeks. In the end, he was gone for nearly 6 weeks, and they got fed up of waiting for him. And they said, what's the matter with this fellow Moses? We're not going to see him again. He's not going to come back down. He's probably died on the mountain. You know, that's it. He's left us. He's gone for good. We'll never see him again. So what should we do? And then they did what everybody else was doing, what Adam and Eve started to do, what the people in the Tower of Babel started to do. They said, well, let's not wait of this God, let's do it our way. Remember that song? I'll do it my way. And so instead of waiting for Moses, instead of waiting to hear what God said, they said, we've got a good idea, we're going to do it another way. We're going to think of a way ourselves. Let's make ourselves a God. And so they collected all the gold and what they'd stolen or what they'd looted from Egypt, and they melted it down, and they made this edifice of a golden calf. They made their own God, even though they had experienced the power of God and seen how he led them out of Egypt, how he took them through that part of the desert, and how they, in a supernatural way, how they went through the Red Sea, and they experienced how the superpower in that time, the Egyptians, they were defeated at the hand of God. But now they said, no, we are going to make our own God. We're going to make a God, you know, the way that we think he should be. Now, the problem is when you start to make your own gods is that you've got to carry this God around with you. He doesn't move. He doesn't do anything. You've got to push him. You've got to shove him. You've got to pull him. You've got to move him so that he's in the place that at that moment you want him to be. He gets very heavy, and this kind of work is very tedious. That's what we call religion. But you know, if your God is the true God, the living God, you don't carry him, you don't push him, you don't shove him, you don't pull him, but he actually carries you all through life. He carries you, and his hand is with you, and that is actually good news. And of course, Moses is very angry when he comes down the mountain, and there's a conflict, and in the end, he destroys this golden calf. Well, we'll see how the story continues. It's a very interesting story. It's a very exciting story, and we're seeing that God is coming, and he's trying to unfold this great plan that he has for us. We'll see you again. See you tomorrow. You're Bob Hatton, your encourager.